Hello, my name is Dominic Underhallhouse and welcome to another episode of Moonbreaker. In today's video, we're going to be looking at a full bombard list. So we've gone for an AoE, all our AoE movement block. We've looked at something like this previously in the playtest, but we haven't done so since the actual release, and I wanted to get a couple of games in before the new updates to the bridge and things like that come in, because I want to try it out as a sort of a list on its own without knowing that we can put all the pieces together. It's quite fun having to piece it together as we go. So one of the things to look at in this list is that I've made a few changes since the last one, is that one of them is Rickety Backfire. So while not strictly an AoE unit in itself, it has the passive ability which can become an AoE attack. We've also put in Beatrice Enforcer, which I don't believe we had in the previous one, and these two are basically here as early game sort of, trading units. I've used this phrase a lot, I use it in most videos, but these are going to help us stay alive and help us have a chance to get to the point where all the rest of our fun things come together. We've got a couple of things for movement blocking, so Jailbreak and Snareling to provide that immobilize, and we've also bought Peacemaker Balam. So we haven't bought him before, however, he's really useful in this style of list because he can give a small AoE, but if we're going to be grouping people up with things like Zax's ability anyway, or snaring them and then maybe hoping someone else goes near it, Balam is a really good option to use. So I know I've done quite a few Zax lists recently, but these are the ones that just sort of come together as they sort of for an interesting list. I haven't done as many Astra lists because Astra is going to be changing soon. I do want to still get a few games in with her before current state changes. And then also Extilior, I've got a few ideas for Extilior, but those are actually better after the new changes come in. So I'm going to still be doing a bit of everything, but Zax is the one that sort of sits in a place where I've got good ideas for the meantime. So let's get on with some games. And in the meantime, if you haven't already hit the subscribe button, please do so. I've got quite a lot of people coming to watch these videos, and so I can see from the analytics that quite a few aren't currently subscribed. So if you'd love to see more of this sort of content, or if you've got any ideas, just subscribe, let me know, and it always does make my day. So we're getting into our first game, so we're going to see what sort of thing we come up against. We are coming against, there we are, and Extilior. Okay, so this is one of sort of the easier of the three matchups, but it does depend on what we draw. Rickety Backfire is a good draw here. Now, Vortex and Corrosive is good, because in fact, Vortex and Corrosive is pretty much perfect. I always get tempted by Plink, but Vortex Corrosive is going to be what we're going to pick here. The reason being is it gives us another thing to pull things in together, and between Teutonia, Florio, and Rickety Backfire, there's a lot of extra potential damage that we can place on grouped up units. So I think one of the things I'm going to do here is basically, depending on where they place their first unit, is maybe even stay sort of in an aggressive position and start poking things. Yeah, so here I actually can see myself still moving back, but wanting to keep line of sight onto Maximus and just try and poke him. It's usually around 50% chance from max range, so that's absolutely fine. And then what we're going to do is, even though Maximus is going to be able to get line of sight on us, he probably can hit statistically. It's more likely that he does than doesn't, but it's still not impossible. And we're going to start just rotating around this way, but what we want to try and do is get Extilior to come this side first. Because if we can get him to come this side, we can use this as move blocking for just that little bit longer and keep ourselves going a little bit further. This is going to make it very hard to stay away from him. So with him, yeah, I want him to go this side at least. But I'm not really sure how we stay out of this situation. So this works okay, because we can potentially get over here and get a line of sight onto Taria Arsenal. And we're probably actually going to be vortexing him back. Okay, so we can't actually get line of sight here, which is unfortunate, but not unreasonable. So what we're going to do is we're going to just move, so double check again, there's no line of sight, move over here, and I actually think just Gravity Disc Extilior back. Let's go this way. Let's make him slightly this angle, so waste some movement coming back in directionally. And we can play a unit. It's going to be Rickety Backfire, and so that's Taria Arsenal, isn't it? Yeah, so there's a reasonable chance Rickety could die here, so I kind of want to just place him as safe as possible, because between double attack on Taria and also the attack from Maximus, if they can get him in line of sight, which I don't think is too unreasonable. Yeah, you can see there's easily a line of sight there. We could have lost Rickety Backfire extremely easily. This way they at least have to think a bit. Corrosive probably means that Rickety's just dead to Taria. So if they use their activated ability now, yep. So without a miss, Rickety dies. But it does give us another turn to basically try and sort of figure out what we need to do from here. And what I'm probably going to do next turn is actually just play Jailbreak on Tutaria Arsenal. Because that way we can basically use our units to try and get another turn of damage on without her being able to run away. The double miss is unbelievably good for us. It's also statistically very unlikely. So Maximus only needs to get one hit on here for him to actually... Yeah. So this is one hit because it gives him a chance to actually kill it on our next turn. Because if we attack, we might die in response. This is fine. We don't care about this. There's a chance next turn... Actually, no, I think we're not going to do that. So I was thinking maybe there was a chance we wanted to do something else, but they've got Stim Burst again. So let's give them 90% here. Hope we don't hit ourselves. We do, but that's fine. We knew that was a possibility. So we're going to poke this for 80%. And then, given that Jailbreak isn't going to do as much right now, Detonia is the one we're going to pick. So this way we can keep on moving, keep moving around to the side, kiting away. We've traded a unit for each other. They were both 2-drops, but they invested 2 Cinder in Rapid Fire once. And now we can start moving over here, and next turn we can play Florio Lancer, which is going to be our big aim here. Okay, so they're trying to block us in here, but we've got the Vortex. So what we're going to be doing is moving over here and then vortexing Extilior back again. So having a lot of AoE is really good versus Taurian Guardian, but also I'm trying to decide whether or not we try and go for Maximus as well. Because if we get both of these activate on Maximus, then we... Oh, the crit is brutal here. So, yeah, depending on when they go, we might shoot him, we might not. If not, we'll shoot Taurian Guardian. So here's an angle that I think we actually try and shoot Zax. Because we can get here to a 2% minus on this. So 60%, this is always going to be less than that because it's minus 40. Excellent, we got it. So Detonia's not going to do anything useful here. I'm kind of actually worried about this coming in, and they haven't got Stim Burst next turn. So I actually think we Vortex ourselves rather than Vortex them away. Because we Vortex them away, it kind of brings Extilior slightly closer, whereas if we Vortex us away, we just make a bit of headway up. And then we're going to bring in Florio Lancer as far away as possible, probably up here. And next turn, because we've got 6 Cinder, we can look at going for Corrosive Particles, Bombard, and Detonia all in one turn. So that's going to be our game plan here. We'd quite like it if they're grouped up. However, I think it's more important to either kill Taurian Guardian or Maximus here. And I think Taurian Guardian is going to be taking 7 is it's pretty much guaranteed actually. So here he's going to hide behind here, which is a shame because that's something we'd really like to deal with. But Taurian Guardian is nearly impossible otherwise. But what we might be able to do is actually jailbreak him. So, in fact we can't jailbreak this turn is the issue. So let's just place the particles down. And one thing I'm going to do first is attack here. Because if we can attack here, we don't have to spend the Cinder on Detonia. Perfect. We can bombard there. We can save our Cinder for next turn. And just keep moving on up. And what we're going to try and do is get to a position where even with Stim Burst, they can't quite get to us. Here, actually. So where would have we been able to deploy? Okay, it doesn't quite tell us. That'd be nice if we could hover over the bridge and see how close we were to deploying. So I feel like Maximus is likely dead next. Stim Burst is going to be here, yeah. So we're taking a lot of damage, but we're gradually finding our way back into this because we've got the Vortex, we're keeping things away, but here I think they're going to try and block us in. So the issue here is Maximus still. Again, for a 1-drop, Maximus is so efficient. If they place something in too close proximity, then that's fine for us. Snarling. Okay. Snarling is good. Snarling can absolutely ruin our plans if things go the way that they want. If he misses both these, that would have been good, but no. Okay, popping back there, I don't think does what they want it to, because now I think we're likely to be able to pull both these here. Can we get Teutonia in range of that? I'm not quite sure we can. But can we get her just in range of Snarling? We can. So I think we're actually going to be sacrificing Teutonia here, most likely. So we're going to use her Lob Explosive here. We're going to pull ourselves back in over here. We'll bombard. And Zakshakar is going to come in and just poke this, hopefully. And then what we'll do is we'll actually place a Sleeper Mine just out of range of Extilior to make it slightly more difficult for him to deal with all of this. So, again, this is just kiting, slowing him down. He could play the Corrosive here, which is going to do a lot of damage to Teutonia, but Teutonia is almost just a throwaway unit at this point, and if they use Corrosive, that's going to take them longer to kill Jailbreak. Yep, this is all fine. Yeah, so without a crit there wasn't anything they could do to kill it. So I believe we're slightly ahead here. Depends on what they reinforce and where. If this is a crankbait, sure. The question is, can we get bombard on both of these? And do we need to? So we can bombard here. So that's 3, 4, 5. So we can get 7 onto crankbait, but I don't know if that's really what we need to do here. So what do you think we're going to do? Is deal the 2 and move over here. We'll leave Teutonia in range in case we have some Cinder left. Let's pop her over here. We can play Jailbreak here. And then, so the case is, do we want to bombard or draw another unit? And I think because we could bombard them both, we just bombard here. And then keep on moving away. So this is forcing them to spend their turn removing Jailbreak. They can probably if I were them, I would remove Jailbreak and run up here. Yeah, this is the right thing to do. Because they can actually probably kill most of this with Corrosive Particles. Stim Burst first. I am genuinely quite worried about this. But we're going to need next turn to be our turn when we start hiding things away. Because this is 7 damage here. And then is it 2 more on Zax? Or are they not? They're not in base contact. Oh, that's really close. Okay, so them not being in base contact is actually quite interesting here because it means that with Corrosive we can start controlling the board again because we can probably kill Crankbait and then put Jailbreak back on Extilior and just keep kiting him around. And they've got no more Cinder to play. So this could work out quite well for us. Yeah, that was a mistake. That actually does change the entire turn of our next turn cycle because now our Corrosive Particles, there's no way of only hitting theirs, but this is fine. So this way we kill here and we don't get hit on the crackback. We can poke back here. We can move Jailbreak here to sort of hold things back into position. We can slowly move this out. We can reinforce. Snarling is amazing here. So Snarling's coming over here. Flurry over there. And honestly, I think we just start by maybe even just pulling ourselves. Actually, no, let's save this to next turn because they can't get to us this turn anyway. And save this next turn and make them come to us. Okay, so they're going to kill our Jailbreak, which is fine. But they do have to use their spin to do so. So that's a good use of their Cinder in terms of what we want. And then it just depends on what they play next as to how we play it from here. So it's very likely that I'm just going to be using Snarling on Extilior over and over again. And they have played Amplify Bytol. So Bytol's just going to die. There is no world in which I don't want to just kill Amplify Bytol. Although what I can do is bombard both first. Yeah, this works. Okay, yeah, we got the victory. So I think our opponent knew at that point that they weren't going to be able to get to us, and every turn we're just going to be able to kill more and more units. And do we get our... There we go, we've got our Cholek paints. So this is what I'm looking for as the extra animations. I haven't actually been using these as often as I should do. Weirdly enough, looking at the season track, I'm really keen on getting things like the banners. I like the idea of being able to make a load of different banners for different lists. So that's something that I'm looking forward to. So that went quite well. It was more of a sort of a kiting game than a bombardment game, but that's just how this list can play out. That's what Zax does in general, which is why I choose him for sort of more late game grindy things. Astra I choose for more of a combo-y approach, and then you've got things like Stilior I choose for more like an aggressive approach or trying something a little bit different. So we've got another game to go, and let's see if we can get something just as interesting as the last one. The last one, I think there were a few routes which we could have ended up losing, but it didn't play out that way, partly because in that last couple of turns, the Extilior didn't end up in melee range of our Zax, so if I would have positioned differently and he could have got in there, that would have been a lot more damage onto our Zax, and I feel like there'd have been a way that they could, switch pace and just try and focus on commander damage or captain damage rather than just playing that grinding game. I was, however, happy to see Snareling. I think Snareling is underrated in Extilior decks because as much as it seems like a really obvious synergy and it seems like a really, useful thing to do, I've not seen almost any other Extiliors running Snareling. I've run Snareling, but I've not seen other people do it. So I think that's something that some people, I guess anecdotally from what I've seen, might be sleeping on. It may just be they've never drawn it. I haven't played against a huge number of Extiliors, so it might just be small sample size. But I think Snareling is really useful in a list where you want to be playing sort of the positional game, and I think Extilior leads to that positional game a lot more than people think. For me, my core of like an Extilior list would be Snareling and probably even Toner Mystic Manteo, and have a lot of fun with that. But with the Zax list, I love playing that board control, that delaying tactic. So that's what we did in the last game. Using the pushback as well was something we didn't make huge use of in the last game, but it's something that you can do, and it really does help you get a little bit more sort of value out of every turn cycle. Yeah, that Extilior has to run that little bit further every single time. The melee units have that little bit extra distance to go, and you always want to be putting yourself just out of melee range of what they can do. Obviously further back if you can, but you want to get that increased accuracy as much as possible. Another thing that you might have seen me doing, which I have done with Zax, is that if I'm placing the mine, which I did when Extilior was next to Detonia, and when we were sort of like sacrificing her and we placed a mine nearby, is placing the mine just out of melee range of Extilior. So what that means is that either Extilior has to use the Sword of Justice and use their 2 Cinder to kill it, or they couldn't move around it very easily because of the position that we placed it in, or they have to use their movement to move up to it and then hit it. And if we can find any way of making them use their movement and not go very far at all, then that's a huge advantage for us in terms of positional play. Every turn that we've slowed down their movement is another turn they're not running towards us. So that's something I've been doing for a while now with Zax, and it's one of the reasons I actually think Zax is incredibly powerful. That's the first time I've ever noticed that spawn animation, and it was actually really cool. The meteor dropping. So that person's further on in the season track there, but that actually looks really awesome. Okay, I was slightly worried about this until I saw our Snareling there. I think here we're going to look at Cinder Infusion and Vortex Beam. It's just a bit more utility. Lifeline is good with Reinforce, but Reinforce is great, but it's essentially 3 Cinder. This is 2 Cinder and a health, but Vortex for me is much more useful than Lifeline. So we like positional play here. We're going to be blocking things with mines. We want to be knocking them together. And we can also see this neon monstrosity. I love it. I really like the, is it Salvador? The, Salvatore? Something like that. I can't remember his name, the actual robot, but that looks quite cool. I love that colour scheme there. I still love he's got his 1 foot up, like very whimsical little robot. But no, I like that. That's really cool. Okay, what's OP playing down? Tower Arsenal, probably the best 2-drop in the game. What a absolute shocker. I mean, there's obviously lots of other options as to what could be the best 2-drop. Personally, I'm a big fan of Beatrice. I think Beatrice is a lot better than people give her credit for. So, I'm not trying to be overly critical of or not overly, emphatic about Taria being the best 2-drop, but she's definitely up there. Taria compared to Arya, I mentioned this in Discord the other day, it almost feels like they should have swapped the mana costs around because Taria is so much better than Arya. Okay, so this is something they can go for. Okay, so they're actually using a lot of Cinder just to get... Oh my god, that crit was unfair. If they get this now, that's such a good turn for them. Yep. Okay, so this might genuinely be an end for us. Managing to kill our 7 health unit with a crit, a rapid fire, that is unbelievably bad for us. So we're going to try and chip down Rickety Backfire. Yep, so at least now he's got a chance of killing himself. We can Cinder Infusion and play something out. I actually think I'm going to play Shrapnel here and then Vortex ourselves back as well. In fact, what I might do is Vortex first, because I want Rickety to have to come out towards us. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to play Shrapnel just out of range so that Rickety can't hit us both, basically. Because if he comes in range with his little AoE, that should make it a little bit more difficult. So Shrapnel's a unit that I'm not sure what I've thought of so far. Because there's a lot of potential for Shrapnel, especially with armor and the AoE effect. Come on, hit yourself. No, of course this is the one time you don't hit yourself. Okay, so I think we're in a lot of trouble here, but we're not out of this. We've got 2 units that can just straight up attack. Tower Arsenal isn't going to be able to... Okay. Medical Recall isn't too bad for us here, actually, but it does mean that Shrapnel can't hit Taria very easily. So we're going to want to be looking at something... Chuck and Co has armor, so that's a good thing to do here. Oh, they're going in again. I forget you can attack twice. If this one hits, then that's also fine. Yeah, so this way we can at least deal with it. Okay, so if we go here, just go for this hit here. I can't get around how often we're missing these, so place this just in front. Zach's to hide over here to bring Tower Arsenal out. And then Chuck and Co. Honestly, I'm almost tempted to send Chuck and Co. right towards Taria. But I think we need to be a little bit more aggressive. Let's send Chuck and Co. this way. I think Taria we're almost going to have to ignore. And this way we can start putting pressure on this side of the map. Astra can run away from us for ages, but that's fine. Peacemaker Balam probably could have been a good shot there, actually. Now that I think about it. Okay, so this is their Vortex. They're going to blow us up with the mine. They're going to try and torian pulling in their own Torian. But if they don't, they take damage too when it happens, or they're just going to attack it and run away, or just run away. Either works. Yeah, so running this way is the correct choice. But here, this is what we want, is putting this at risk. So we're going to take 2 here, 1 here. But now we can potentially sort of move things over this way. And if we can separate things from Astra, I think we're in a better position. So they've got their shrapnel. This is good. Oh my god, they've got enough to haste it. Yep. So this is why Astra, I think, is, well, why everyone thinks it is very powerful at the moment. Because this is just out of nowhere taking an AoE attack. We're in a lot of trouble. So I don't know if we actually have a route out of this, to be honest. We're going to try our best. What we're also going to do is actually pull Torian Guardian away, because Torian Guardian is going to stop us doing anything to Taria. Whereas if we do it this way around, there's a chance we might be able to get her with a... Are you kidding? Oh, I thought this would be out of range. Whatever. We just need a crit here. No, we didn't get one. Peacemaker Balam can pop his head down there. We'll pop a sleeper mine in here as well to stop them moving all the way around. And honestly, oh, you can't even fit through that gap. Come on now. Right, well, we're just going to run Chuck and Co this way. This hasn't gone to plan. I thought we'd be able to fit through that gap and start chasing Astra down. Again, they poke us each turn. We keep moving towards them. It just means that they're deploying units further away from us, which was the aim there. Yep, so this is going to probably be the end of us, especially if they got Vortex next turn. So this going to hit on balance. Oh, they've got enough movement. Yeah, I thought they might do, but I was kind of like, is there an option? -8, I think the best they've got there. But this is very likely to be us dead in the next turn, especially with their Vortex coming up as well. So we've got Cinder Infusion to heal a little bit. Although, with Peacemaker Balam alive, if this doesn't die here, we can actually do this. If we can stun all 3 of these every turn, I think we're in a good spot if we can do that. So we can't quite hit all 3 as it is. But if we gravity disc them, and then Spore Puff. So Balam needs to be kept safe at all costs. Shrapnel is going to be our win con here at this rate. Is there an angle we can get onto that without hitting Astra? No, not really. So Taurian Guardian's going to have to be our first hit every time. Chuck and Co is going to come in at the back and start hitting as well. If anything, actually, we go here so we can block Astra off. Okay, we missed anyway, that's fine. We'll reinforce. And I think that's everything that we want to do here. So, obviously Astra can haste something here and kill us. This is what we're aware of. This is why we're going to be running Zax away next turn. I figured we'd just try and get 1 turn of damage off. But if it's something like a switchback, we are just dead. I believe... Oh no, because they can't necessarily do it. Yeah, so this is 2 damage, so they just need to haste 1 damage. Well, in fact, they also only need to just hit Astra into Balam, and then we lose this synergy. So anything they can play here... Yeah, Tipu can actually kill Balam, and that ends the game for us, most likely. Oh, yeah, well, no, just get into the game. They can just kill us. Yeah, that's a little bit of a better route. So Astra showing her strength yet again. It's a really, really powerful kit there. Oh, we might be leveling up. Yes, there we go. We finally leveled up with Zax. Not played that many games as you can see. We're at quite a low level on things, but again, really enjoying it. I also like that these icons load. You sort of change. Or do they? Because Axopyro looks slightly different to Snareling, and they are both smugglers. Yeah, so they do look like they level up. So who's our highest level here? 1, 1, 1, 2, 2. So these are both Methodori at 2. This is Methodori at 0. So yeah, these are completely different. So these icons do actually rank up, which I quite like. Gives you a little bit of feeling of progression. But yeah, all in all, I don't think that list was too bad. Astra being sort of the current scourge of the meta as she stands anyway is pretty much to be expected, but I've really enjoyed this. It's been a lot of fun. We're going to be looking at doing more AoE lists in the future, maybe with a few different setups, but other than that, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I read every comment. I really appreciate it. It genuinely does just improve my day a little bit every time I see one of those notifications come up on my phone. And other than that, have a good day.